Hey Baddies! In this video, I'm making a 50% spelt sourdough. Spelt is an ancient grain that's pretty closely related to wheat. Not only does it have tons of health benefits, it also gives your finished bread a really nice nutty flavor and a lovely reddish-brown color. But spelt can get pretty sticky and stretchy, and it can be a bit tricky to work with. That's because its gluten is more fragile than that of regular wheat, and it doesn't soak up water as easily. So it's best to start off by using less water and to focus on gentle ways to build strength in the dough. So let's get started. First, mix the flours, salt, starter, and water until just well combined. I would typically do an autolyse when making a bread with 50% whole grain flour or more. Autolysing is when you mix only the flour and water together first, let it rest, then mix in the salt and the starter later on. One of the benefits of autolysing is that it increases the dough's extensibility, but spelt flour is already plenty extensible enough on its own. Also, because the gluten in spelt is more fragile, I'm trying to handle the dough as little as possible. Once you're done mixing, cover the dough and let it rest for 1 hour. After an hour, it's time to knead the dough. I'm doing rouleau mixing here, which is a technique that I explain more in depth in my latest video on handling high hydration dough. It will take about 1 to 2 minutes for the dough to smooth out and come together, then leave it to rest for another 30 minutes. It's now time for the first coil fold. Be sure to wet your hands first to prevent the dough from sticking. As you can tell, it's also pretty stretchy. After 45 minutes, I give it a second coil fold, followed by a third coil fold an hour later. This dough bulk fermented for a total of 5 hours at around 76 degrees Fahrenheit, but the timing will be different depending on your environment, so just watch out for a 30 to 50% rise in volume. To pre-shape, wet your hands and loosen the dough from the edges of the bowl. Give it a gentle coil fold to release it from the bowl and onto the counter, and round it into a ball. Leave it to rest for 15 minutes before final shaping. Lightly dust the dough and your hands with flour before shaping it into a loaf. Place it into a proofing basket dusted with lots of flour. I dusted mine with whole wheat flour. I let the dough final proof for 2 hours at room temperature before baking. You could also cold retard it in the fridge for about 12 hours. Just be warned that the large amount of whole grain, combined with the long cold final proof, will result in a very tangy loaf. So for this kind of dough, I actually prefer to final proof at room temperature and bake it on the same day, so that the flavor of the spelt can really come through. But final proof however you like. If you are proofing at room temperature, I actually like to place the proofed dough uncovered in the freezer for 15 to 30 minutes while the oven preheats. I find that this makes it easier to score and helps the dough keep its shape better when you load it into the oven. Bake it for 18 minutes at 450 degrees Fahrenheit with steam, then for another 12 minutes at 410 degrees Fahrenheit without steam. As with all sourdough bread, be sure to let it cool for at least 40 minutes before cutting into it.